to be honest, don't really know what I'm doing.
He was often a player that I would buy on Football Manager.
It's already a terrible reason.
From Jon Snow, Matt puts Dan's wardrobe to shame.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Look at him, the cat that got the cream.
Ian Taylor said it was the worst thing he'd ever seen in his life. Monk, really, I know he's manager. What kind of say is that?
Gary Monk, 5 out of 10.
I haven't finished yet. I cannot believe Gabriel Bonner-Horst.
That's crazy,
That's
isn't
terrible.
it?
Yeah, we may well have lost listeners early doors again with a long-winded intro. Go, shoot. Hello, welcome back to the Villa View podcast with Thomas Julian rapidly trying to sort out his hair before we started the camera rolling, and me, Dan Bardell. I could do with a haircut as well, actually, to be fair, but you definitely need a trim. It's been a while.
It's out of control. I look like a 1980s newsreader at this point.
And dressed like one.
Yeah, a bit dressed like. It's freezing
It is cold.
outside.
It is very cold. A cold podcast booth as well. I've not recovered from being outside earlier.
When was that? Like lunch though?
No, I went out to get some food just before you came, so I'm still quite cold. But
Yep.
Villa won, so that warms the spirits immediately in a Villa View podcast. I don't know how much of the game you saw.
Yeah, I saw most of it. I
Yeah.
watched it on a couple of streams.
Yeah,
split
dodgy.
across.
We can't recommend that you do watch dodgy streams, but I must admit I managed to find one as well on Saturday afternoon. I caught the second half
Needs
at
must.
my in-laws, so that was good. So actually, the bits of the game I watched, we won 3-0.
I was going to say that. So you actually missed Sheffield Wednesday peppering the Villa goal.
I did. I've seen the highlights back.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, let's get into it. A 4-2 win for Villa on the road. And, all things considered, because the first half, Sheffield Wednesday, they dominated. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And it's hard to see why they're kind of languishing kind of 16th, 17th, because they played some really nice football. You know, that I think it's Sean Clare in the centre of midfield playing really well. Zhao up front, who I think we talked about in the previews, is a decent player. Like, they've got some good players, and they really put Villa under the cosh first half.
They got a lot of injuries. They had 13 players missing, I believe. So we're talking about we've got an injury crisis because we had two of our better players missing. They really have got an injury pandemic there. So any result away from home is a good result, isn't it? We've gone there and scored 4 goals, and if you score 4 goals, you should win the game. Really, a bit worrying that we've started to concede a few. I mean, the goals, I don't know if it was anyone's fault for the goals, but there was a few times where we looked all over the place. Set pieces we've looked a bit suspect from in recent weeks, and they had that one at 2-2 that I don't know how the ball didn't end up in the goal. So the luck was on our side a little bit, you felt. But then there's been other times when the luck hasn't been with us, so maybe these things do even themselves out. But going there and winning 4-2, you just feel like it's galvanised everyone again, and you don't win for a couple of games and you do end up feeling a little bit down, but as soon as you get that win, you're euphoric and you think, right, we can go on another run now.
Yeah, I mean, Sheffield Wednesday had their chances. They hit the post a couple of times. Like you say, there was some scrappy balls. Sam Johnston made a couple of reaction saves, which were good. Yeah. One bounced off Johnston, which was more fortunate than quality keeping. But going back to set pieces, we've talked about it before. It did look a little bit of a concern, and we looked a bit shaky from a couple of their set pieces. I mean, I don't mind conceding so much when you're scoring 4 goals. I think something's got to give. You're not going to win 4-0 every week, and as long as you're coming out with 3 points, I think that's the main thing. But I think a few people on social media and various fans have mentioned that they don't think that the 4 goals that we scored should mask the kind of problems that we showed at defending. To me, it doesn't feel like it's a worrying concern. I think it was Dave Alford on Twitter who asked about that, but more of a kind of one of those games where you're not going to keep clean sheets every day. John Terry, it's a long season. We've kind of talked about it, but I think he'll come good. I think Sam Johnston, a win would be very important for him, and as we say, he's made some really important saves, even though he has had a couple of gaffes as well.
Well, he's conceded 2, Johnston, in that game. There weren't really anything to do with him, and he's made the team of the week despite conceding 2 goals. I think it's the Who Scored championship team of the week he's made, and there was a couple of other Villa players in there as well as Connor
Snodgrass
and Horahan, I think.
Yeah,
we're in there as well. So Johnson's had a good game by all accounts. He's made some good saves, and that'll do him good after a bad week for him. But that's the only bad week he's had all season. To be fair to him, people say he doesn't dominate like in his 6-yard box from set pieces and crosses. But I presume he hasn't been doing that all season then, and it hasn't really cost us until now.
Well, I've said that before, that I'm kind of worried about his ability with the crosses and particularly coming out and beating big centre forwards, and I think that has been a concern. He is a young goalkeeper. He is going to make mistakes, and he's going to learn and improve, and he's still growing as a footballer and as a goalkeeper. But by and large, I think you did the video, didn't you, a couple of weeks ago, how he's been player of the season, and he has been. And I think 2-2 wouldn't have been an unfair result, considering that they dominated the first half.
Well, I mean, obviously I've not seen the first half all the way through. I've just seen the highlights. But, I mean, I've turned on in the second half. In the first 10 minutes, I thought, oh, my Christ, why can't we pass the ball? What's going on here? This is like the bad old days. But then I've got to say, from then, we equalised. And I've got to say, I thought we looked good. I thought we looked like we were going to make something happen every time we came forward, which without Adoma and Grealish was something we were all worried about.
Yeah,
I think Graben's made a huge difference in the side.
Yeah,
to be honest.
We'll come on to him, but I'm just going to contradict myself for a second, because I can see why Sheffield Wednesday are 17th, because they didn't capitalise on the chances they had. They could have scored 4 in the first half alone. They had a couple of chances in the second as well, and that's why they are where they are. And it'd be interesting to see how Luhake, the Sheffield Wednesday manager, does once he has a full season under his belt, because they did play nice football. And he said, obviously you've mentioned the injuries, but he also said that he didn't think that the team were physically fit enough before the game. And I think that told. 2 goals in the last couple of 5-10 minutes. That's massively important. Sheffield Wednesday could have had a point. Instead, they leave home with nothing. And it'd be interesting to see how they grow over the next season. But a very, very important 3 points for Villa.
Well, they're in transition, Sheffield Wednesday, like you say. If this is the new manager's... If the new manager's got a vision, you won't see that vision until next season. I mean, there was a time when fitness was levelled at us quite a lot, but we've not... To be fair, this season, I can't really remember us conceding many late goals, if any. I can't think of a game that we've chucked away in the last minute off the top of my head, and my knowledge of Villa is usually pretty good. And I can't think of a time where that's happened. So we must have come on leaps and bounds fitness-wise. I mean, when Bruce came over, he said the players aren't fit enough.
I feel like there was a run of managers that all came in and was just like, this team isn't fit enough. And it was like, what's been happening here for the last 3 years?
I mean, I think there was generally a dossing culture at Villa for a few years, but that's gone now. Like, there was an interview the other week, and I think it was with Steve Round, when he said we don't tolerate bad attitudes now. But at Bodymore Heath, they're just not accepted. Yeah. So that's great, and you can see still the lads are together. You can see that when at the end of the game they're going up to the fans. I mean, Snodgrass, considering he's a lone player, he's absolutely loving life. Yeah, and he's loving it at Villa.
I was going to talk to you about that, because all the players got together at the end, didn't they? They were celebrating, they were hugging each other, and it's so important. And then John Terry kind of runs through and gives a big roar as well. And he, like, for all intents and purposes, he is a Villa player. It's been talked a bit about earlier in the season how much he was kind of just how much he'd be committed to Villa, whether he was doing it for a couple more seasons or whatever. But he is really invested in this team. He loves the team, and you can tell that whole squad. There's an attitude and an atmosphere that is so much better than it has been in the last couple of years.
It'll be a new experience for John Terry as well. Obviously, he's been at Chelsea his whole career, but he'll enjoy being something different. It's a different type of challenge for him, and he'll want to sign off at Villa with us in the Premier League. So it will naturally mean a lot to him, because he is a winner, and he doesn't settle for second best. John Terry wants to go up with Villa this season, and I mean, to be fair, it wouldn't surprise me even if we went up in second if he saw that as a failure. Yeah. In the fact that we hadn't won the league. So John Terry wants to go up, and if he bows out, he wants to bow out on a high, and I think that's part of the reason why he carried on, maybe, because he won the league with Chelsea, but he wasn't really involved. He didn't play many games. I think he wanted to bow out on top, and he's come. I mean, to be fair, actually, I don't think he's been at his best in the last few games, and he had some uncomfortable moments against Sheffield Wednesday, but he also made that excellent recovery tackle that Sheffield Wednesday fans were saying was a foul. I mean, I've never seen such a bad reaction to us before and to a referee. Then Sheffield Wednesday fans were not happy, were they? I think we only gave away Was it we only gave away one foul?
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Well, they had 16 fouls against them, and we only had one. There was only 3 bookings in the game, but Neil Swarbrick came under a lot of
He's a Prem ref as well, isn't he? Swarbrick.
He certainly was, yeah.
Well, he has been, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He came under a lot of scrutiny from Sheffield Wednesday fans. There's a few key moments there, Dan. George Boyd tripped in the penalty box, and a couple of, like you mentioned, the John Terry incident as well. So, I mean, it swings in roundabouts, doesn't it? You've talked about the quality of Championship refereeing. I've kind of disagreed. I think
maybe you're a former referee, as you've said. You've been to the convention. You know these guys.
They're my buddies. Me and Neil Swarbrick actually had lunch together. No, we didn't.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Not yet.
Generally wouldn't surprise me.
But
he'd be if you had like a dinner party, like guest list of your ideal dinner party, it'd be like Uriah Renner,
Graham Poll,
Neil Swarbrick, Mark Housley. They'd all be round yours. You'd all be wearing your ref gear, talking about the finer points of refereeing.
Yeah, that's exactly what it would be. But it does swing and roundabout. I think sometimes you get the luck, and it feels a bit like Villa have been on the right end of some decisions.
Oh, we've had a lot of penalties.
Yeah,
but I think most of them have been penalties.
Yeah, we talked about Keenan Davis last week, didn't we?
That was slightly suspect, I would say.
But I can't remember. I don't have it in my notes, which is poor of me. Yeah, I know. It's been a very busy day, looking out the window and seeing if it was still snowing.
Yeah.
But one guy on Twitter, apologies, I can't remember your name. He thought maybe it was the fact that Villa were now the bigwigs in the Championship, and those decisions we kind of perceived to go against us when we were in the Premier League against the big teams. Is that now working in our favour, do you think? Is there a psychology there?
I think in penalties, possibly. We have had our fair share of penalties, but in general rough and tumble during the game, I don't feel like we get half the decisions we should. There's been a couple where Grealish has been upended and players have got away with it. I mean, to be fair, Endor should have been sent off for that stamp on Grealish, arguably, and we've been missing him for the last 3 games. So maybe we've had a few more penalties, but you could also say a lot of them have been fairly recently, but we've attacked more than we've ever attacked in previous seasons. We didn't really attack much, so we're picking up more penalties. We've probably got better players than most teams in the Championship, so that's another reason. If you've got the trickery and players that are going to try and go past people, you're going to win more penalties. But as I say, other than that Davis one, I don't remember any of them being too dodger.
Do you want to hear my theory on referees?
Go on then, Tom. As a former referee,
I
ever fancy getting back into it?
Do you know what? I really miss refereeing. I absolutely loved refereeing. I thought it was so fun.
Fun? I've never heard a referee say it was fun.
I think if you talk to good referees like myself, they find it fun because it's when you're sometimes it can be brutal. You get players that just won't listen to you, but at a good standard, if you can kind of communicate with the players and you come off and you've had a good game and everybody roughly agrees. Nobody's always going to agree 100% with you, but if you can generally think, I don't know what, I got most of those right.
Fitness would be an issue for you in refereeing.
It would be now.
Fitness would be a massive problem for you.
My theory on referees is you give them the nicest changing room in the stadium, because immediately there's the psychology there where if you've got a nice changing room, you've got...
this is the most bizarre thing I've ever
heard. Hear me out. All right, you've got a nice changing room, nice warm shower, comfortable facilities. Because sometimes, certainly at a local level, you have to change in sheds, right?
Right.
And it's horrible. And immediately you're like, oh, this club is terrible. I don't want to be here very much longer. And you go out with an immediate negative reaction to that side. You give them the nicest changing room in the place. This is coming from a former referee.
Oh, you have.
I've been to the conventions, mate.
This is a
don't you think?
Viewpoint I've never ever thought of.
Right, but it makes serious sense, I think, because if the referee starts and he arrives at your club and goes, do you know what, it's really nice. I really like going here. I'm looking forward to coming here again, kind of thing. Then you've got an immediately good reaction with the club. Now I don't know how. You shouldn't
base your decisions on whether you've had a nice shower.
You shouldn't. But that's subconscious. You immediately think, oh, this is nice. I'm already feeling kind of at home.
I feel like this is massively far fetched.
Do you?
But okay, so say, apparently we had the better of the referee on a Saturday. But Sheffield Wednesday is not a bad ground. You won't be changing terrible facilities at Hillsborough.
No, I mean it's at a lower level. I don't know how far this goes.
Okay.
Well, I don't know how far it goes because I never quite got to Hillsborough.
No,
I was just before that. I didn't make the grade. I don't know. I think that's basic psychology, that if you treat somebody that's going to influence the game quite well, then you've got more of a chance of doing well than not doing well.
Are you saying in Sunday League that the team should put the ref up in the Ritz the night before the game?
I would absolutely say that that's a great idea. At least not the Ritz necessarily, but a nice hotel.
I think there's a
nice holiday.
I think there must be some kind of. That's a bit like a bung. A little bit the way you're going on about it feels
obviously not in a hotel. But if you've got a nice changing room for the referee, I think I can tell you that immediately you're like, oh, this is a nice ground, good club, and you're more likely to give them the benefit of the doubt. I
think this is an all over the place theory.
Do you?
If I'm being honest.
Mate.
So when we were in the Prem, then we weren't treated particularly well.
No,
in the Prem, were we? But we had nice facilities.
Right.
The ref would have had a nice room.
So let's take
I
it.
think we spent too long on this as well.
Well, let's take it slightly further then. Not just the room per se, but as soon as the referee arrives at the club, that he's not like left in the lobby or something, or the managers are not always criticising, that kind of thing. The whole experience of the referee is definitely going to weigh in on however many decisions. Obviously, the big ones are there and then, and they have to make them decisions. But I think the little ones, the referee makes his decision on what type of club it is, and if it's perceived to be a negative kind of stereotype, then those decisions aren't going to go for you.
I think we spent too long in ref's corner here. Apologies for anyone who had to listen to the ramblings of a failed referee.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's
I
my
personally
piece.
think that is an all over the place theory. I don't think that's well founded at all.
I haven't actually vocalised it yet. So
do you wish if you could rewind now and not go into that? Do you think you'd still go into it?
No comment. Let us know in the comments whether that was a ridiculous theory.
There's no one commenting now. Everyone's switched off.
That's true. Fair enough. Well, you don't have to put up with me for the next few weeks. Anyway, I'm taking a suspension, a 3-game ban.
You're going to have to, I think, after that. The bizarre ramblings of a madman.
All right, let's get back to Villa, shall we?
Please.
Adoma and Jack Grealish. We've talked. I think you just mentioned Grealish there. Do we hope to have them back on Saturday? What's the latest at the club?
So I've read somewhere that Adoma was apparently close.
Right.
On Saturday and didn't make it. Maybe his brother had said something on Twitter or something. His brother's quite big on the old social media. I still wouldn't expect them back, either of them back.
Right.
On Saturday, from what I know, to be honest, but I don't know anything concrete. But that's just my opinion. You'd think we'd have enough to beat QPR. I mean, they've been absolutely pumped at home to Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
On Saturday, have been in no great form themselves. So you'd think they're going to be pretty low on confidence. It's a game I'd expect to be winning, even with Grealish and Adoma missing, and Codger and Green maybe as well. We should have too much for QPR. We went earlier in the season. We've already beaten them once. I think they're in a bit better form then.
I think they were in mixed form.
They had good home form at that point, but away from home,
Yeah.
I'm not sure they've got much about them. We should be winning that game.
Yeah, I would say
if the game's on. I'm worried the game's not going to be on at this point.
Well, we'll come on to the snow again, no doubt. Simon O'Regan and Frank from Marbella Lions said on social media, if Adoma and Grealish aren't fit, would a change back to 4-4-2 make more sense, or would you keep it? Would you keep the 4-1-4-1?
I think he'd probably be tempted to go with the team that finished the game. I mean, to be fair, we've not talked about when Jedinak came on. I think we all assumed we're settling for a point here.
Yeah.
But that seemed to be, looking back now, it seemed to be that was just to try and stop them on the counter.
Yeah.
And it actually worked, because we continued to push forward. Bruce has made some decent subs this season. He gets some stick for not being tactically flexible. But
I think in the last couple of months, more so than earlier.
Yeah, definitely. But he's made some good subs there, and that sub worked because we continued to attack. I mean, Horahan nearly scored from the chance that won the corner.
Yeah.
And then he's popped a good finish.
Lovely finish.
Popped up with a good goal. And we were talking about him last week as well. People were questioning whether he does enough to be in the team. I think he's answered his critics in the best possible way.
Yeah, well, because the Birmingham Mail, I think we referenced, they would have had him out of their kind of dream starting 11, if you like.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see the reasoning behind that, and I don't think you could either.
It's made us look very clever.
Well, I mean,
after last week's podcast,
and we need some help.
Let's face it. You need all the redemption you can get now. You need to make a proper good call in this podcast that comes to fruition in the game on Saturday.
Oh, goodness me! All right, but what about Berke Bjarnason? Do you think he plays against QPR? I feel like we should be going more attacking against QPR, and Berke gives us a little bit more of that.
Yeah, obviously he does because he's a more ball-playing player than maybe Jedinak. I mean, to be honest, I'm going to dig myself out a little bit here. We obviously have our group WhatsApp, and I'm going to dig Chris Dolan out as well because he made an error in that group chat as well. Although my brain is letting me down, I can't remember what it was. Didn't he say it? What did Dolan do first?
Are you going to go on to the?
Yeah, I'll go on to what I said. So we were talking in our WhatsApp group, and I questioned just the logic because I said, well, it's been Bjarnason or Jedinak in the holding midfield role, and I've never had anything against Whelan personally. I've always kind of defended him on it, but I said that selection's come from nowhere. He's just come into the team from nowhere. He's not even been coming on as a sub, and then randomly he's in the team, and obviously he's found himself in the penalty box for the first time this season and scored.
Done well, to be fair. I mean, it's a great box by great ball by Snodgrass.
Yeah, it really was. But so I was questioning that, and then obviously he scored, and I came back quickly and said I've always believed in that Whelan selection, always knew it was the right call. And as I say, I've got nothing against Whelan, but it did feel like it came a bit from nowhere because it's people over the last few weeks have been saying, well, will he pick Jedinak, will he pick Bjarnason, and then suddenly Whelan comes in and neither Jedinak or Bjarnason are playing. But Dolan made a bold shout, didn't he?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find it here.
As he often does. Can't see us scoring 3.
Yeah.
Well, he was half right because we scored 4.
Yeah, I mean, he's spot on, to be fair.
2-1 down, Dolan couldn't see us scoring 3. I mean, to be fair, if you'd have asked me before the game, I wouldn't have envisaged 4 goals incoming after the Preston game.
This is from you. Whelan over Berke makes no sense.
He said he's not because he hadn't played since Forest.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense, but obviously it worked.
Well done, Steve Bruce.
This is the thing: the people on the training ground know more than we do, I suspect.
So this is I'm in danger of going off on a tangent again.
No,
this morning,
it's not about refs, is it?
No, it's not. This morning I got the chance to go to a breakfast with Steve Parish, the Crystal Palace chairman.
Oh, okay.
And he
kept that quiet. That's quite big news. I'm surprised you've not told me that before now.
I've been very busy.
No. How long's that been in the diary for?
A week.
Did you ask how Benteke was?
No.
Oh, come on, Thomas.
I mean, it wasn't just me and him.
Okay.
We weren't sitting at a table.
I did think it was a bit strange.
It was me and 300 other people.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't an intimate affair.
No.
But he was saying about how important it was for those at the club, for example, himself, the manager, that kind of thing, to just block out all the noise because it's relentless. It's not just the fans, it's not just the YouTube accounts or the podcasts, it's the media constantly speculating about various things. And Steve Parish was just like, we see so much more than you'll ever know.
Yeah, it's true.
On the training ground, but not just in the training ground, in the changing room, hanging out outside, in the physio room, everything. You know, there's so much more than just what the end product, as it were. And obviously, Steve Bruce saw something there, decided it was time for Glenn Whelan, because you're right, he hadn't played. But,
it was just a surprise.
There must be a decision, and that was the right one to make.
I mean, to be honest, I think when Bruce put him in, I don't think he could have ever envisaged that he'd have ended up scoring.
True.
I don't remember him having a shot this season. I mean, I don't know what he was doing in the box.
It's his first goal since 2011.
Yeah, I think his Missy said on Twitter it was the first time their son had seen him score.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So big moment in the Whelan household.
There you go.
Oh, hopefully he won't leave it as long for the next one.
Yes. Well, we shall see. Sean William Jones on Twitter: has Hogan done enough to keep out Codger? Now, this is I meant to ask this one at the end, but I'm going to come on to something else in a minute.
Okay.
But in fact, I'm going to change that. I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Matt Jeffries, who says Lewis Grabban looks like a proper player.
He does.
Now, would you be tempted to start him up top? Say Adoma's fit for Saturday. Start Adoma on the wing and then Grabban up top. Move Hogan back to the bench.
Funnily enough, if Adoma and Grealish are back, I'd be less inclined to play Grabban, even though I think he's done well.
Right.
And someone said already, I think it was Big D said on Twitter, already he's been even if he never plays again, he's been a great signing because he's come in the last 2 games and scored 2 goals. He's a better footballer than I thought he was before I watched him play for Villa, and he has been a breath of fresh air, to be honest, and he's been pivotal. And I was someone who said we didn't need another striker. Wrong.
Oh, I'm going to take my.
Did you want him? I can't remember.
Absolutely.
No, you did.
I said I thought he was perfect because he wasn't one that, like, Bournemouth were desperate to get him games, and therefore it wouldn't disrupt the flow. But he would come in and at least challenge the position, and he's done well. That.
I mean, to be fair to him, for him as well, it's the biggest chance he'll ever get, probably, to play at a club like Villa, because he's not played for any really big clubs. If I'm being honest, although he has played in the Premier League, but he'll have an eye on next season, because there's a chance if we go up and he does well, there's a chance that we'll sign him to play in the Premier League.
Well, that's a perfect
next season as a squad player, I would think.
That's a perfect segue.
I'm not finished though.
No, don't do that.
We haven't really answered the question.
Okay.
If Adoma and Grealish are fit, I'd play Hogan, because that everything was working perfectly. Hogan was playing really well before, although he didn't score against Blues. I thought Hogan had one of his best games. And then two after, he's been a bit quiet, or 3 after, sorry, he's been a bit quieter since Grealish and Adoma haven't been there. But that's probably because Grealish and Adoma haven't been there. I mean, when we were talking about Horahan last week, we were saying, well, them two not being there is obviously going to affect his game. It's affected Hogan's game because he's not been getting as much service or the right kind of service. So, yeah, if Adoma and Grealish were back, I'd probably be inclined to use Grabban as an impact player. But, as I say, I don't think either of them will be back. So keep Grabban in the team and keep Hogan in the team. And
so that goes on to my Sean William Jones question. Once Codger comes back next season, has Hogan done enough to warrant that starting job? Does it depend on league?
Does it depend on league? I mean, there's no. If we were to go up, there's no guarantees that Codger or Hogan would be starters, because I imagine we'd go for a big name centre forward.
Yeah,
I would think. We don't know. I mean, hopefully Codger will be back before the end of the season, because it's nice to have another option. But has Hogan done enough? Things can be going on at the time. Codger could come back and Hogan very well be injured or something. Like I can't really answer the question. I don't know. I think Hogan's a good little player. I really like him. He's a cracking player, I think.
Do you think he'll be good enough for the Premier League?
I think he could play in the Prem. I'm not saying he'd be a starter every week, but I think he could play in the Prem. There was Prem teams looking at him before he came to us, but don't know until I see him there. It could be that if we were in the Prem with Hogan, we'd have better players, and you get more out of Hogan because you've got better players. You're only as good as the players around you at times.
Do you think, now that we've seen a little bit more of Hogan, obviously his first 12 so months at the club were not particularly popular with many of the fans, and since 2018 he's become a lot more popular, and people have come round him, and
he's put the ball in the net.
Well, certainly. Do you think his stock overall, while he's been at Villa, has gone up or down?
Good question. I think it's probably stayed the same. He had a good reputation when he came to Villa, and I think the fact that he's had this run when we were on a good run of form has probably kept it at the same level. But there was a point where it had obviously fallen, because he wasn't. I still think, through no fault of his own, he wasn't doing the business, and he said himself he wasn't doing the business. So it's back on the rise, and certainly heading towards where it was.
Yeah.
The Brentford days. It depends how the second half of how the rest of the season goes really for him. If he ends up in double figures, he'll still carry his weight, I think.
Good. Did you see this stuff on avfc.co.uk? That's a lot of letters. From Millie Jedinak?
No.
So Jedinak, there's a little article on the website, the team website, which is well worth checking out. Millie Jedinak's been doing a lot of stuff in schools, and kids had the opportunity to ask him a few questions. There were a few interesting quotes where Jedinak talked about the team morale and how it changed so much in the last kind of 18 months, 2 years. So I've got a couple of quotes for you here. He says, "I'd say togetherness is the most important thing, which something I've seen a lot of in this side. You only need to look at the final scenes against Sheffield Wednesday. We're entering the last stint of the season, and you really want to feel that energy from all around the club. We'd feed off that buzz as players in any way we can get ourselves over the line." He also talks about togetherness, and it's the kind of the natural way of the season, where you win a few games, you lose a few games. That's just the way it is. But he kind of talks about how important it is for the fans and for the whole club to be pulling in the same direction.
Well, to use one of your phrases, I'm going to segue into something.
Haven't used that for a long time.
Yeah, I know. I thought I'd bring it back. You were very popular with your segues before. My friend Aston, who was at the game on Saturday, I spoke to him after the game, and he told me a little story of something that happened that would have probably gone unnoticed. He said, I mean, to be fair, the guy does love Henry Lansbury. He's got a bit of an obsession with Henry Lansbury, but that's by the by. He said at the end of the game, Henry Lansbury obviously hasn't really gone that well for him at Villa. He hadn't got on a sub. Again, there's been a lot of games recently where he hasn't been on the bench, but at the end of the game, he came running onto the pitch, hugging everyone, high-fiving, like jumping up in the air, was absolutely chuffed that we'd won, and you could see the delight on his face, and that speaks volumes of him, and it speaks volumes for the team spirit, because in the Championship, Henry Lansbury, I'd say, is a big-name player, and he's not playing, so he can't be happy about that, but it seems like he's putting the team first before himself, and just to see, well, I didn't see it, but from what Aston says, that's a great thing to hear. Someone that's not really been involved is coming on, and he's absolutely delighted for his teammates for grinding out a result. And it goes back to the stuff from the FCG as well. Keith Widener saying that the squad's focused like a laser beam on promotion. It does seem like everyone is pulling in the same direction, regardless of whether you're playing every week or you've not really been involved at all. So, and that's good. That shows a strong side.
What do you think has changed in the last 12 months, let's say, since, because obviously Steve Bruce has been there for that time. So at this point last year, I mean, I guess we were starting to push for the playoffs, and results had improved. But it feels like chalk and cheese since comparing the two. What is the main difference, do you think, between these two squads?
I think that standards had got so sloppy at Villa, and it takes a while to wash that away. Yeah, there was a losers mentality. It was almost like away from home, for example. It was almost accepted that if we went behind, this game's over. Yeah, and it was accepted that we'd become a bit mediocre. And like I say, behind the scenes, it does take a long time to wash that kind of thing away. And I think we've made some good appointments. I think Steve Round is doing a good job behind the scenes, and Bruce and his coaching staff are obviously doing a good job around the place. Like I was saying earlier about like bad attitudes aren't tolerated at the club anymore. So I just think standards have been raised. Obviously, when you're bringing in someone like John Terry as well, standards automatically have to raise, because he doesn't want to come and have his career fade away and be a loser in the Championship. If he was in that team last season, he'd have been horrified at finishing 13th in the Championship. And as I said earlier, I think he'd even not be chuffed with. He'd be pleased. He'll take second if he's offered it now, but he'd have said to himself at the start of the season, I want to be lifting this Championship trophy, and he won't be happy at not doing that. Yeah. Come the end of the season. So I just think it's a simple thing of time. It takes time to get rid of the bad smell. Mm-hmm. And our standards have raised, and now mediocrity is not accepted. I'm going to finish it with a quote from Yeti. There's a lot of unity here, and not just among the playing squad. The fans are really buying into this team, and there's a real mentality here now around the whole club that we're one big family, from players and coaches to staff and supporters. So I think that's really important, isn't it? Especially as we talked a little bit about atmosphere after the Fulham game and then into the Preston game. It's really important that everybody is on the same page and doing the best for the team. It helps if you can not go on run, if you can avoid going on runs where you don't win games. Well, sure. Because even at that too, things were getting a bit tetchy, weren't they? But which is crazy. Yeah, it is crazy, especially in this league where everyone does tend to beat everyone. I mean, you just pulled the piece of paper with the table. It is just anything can happen here. We're as likely to finish like fifth as we are second. Yeah, well, to be fair, looking at it. Let's have a quick look at the table. Sheffield United back into the top six. It's a revolving door of who's sixth at the moment. Every week. They don't draw many Sheffield United, do they? 4 all season. That's it. That's incredible. That shows that they play purely to win. Yeah, don't they, Sheffield United? Well, they lost against Hull, didn't they, on Friday night, but then beat Reading on Tuesday, which is yesterday. In podcast land. In podcast land, yes. A couple of interesting results. Derby drew with Reading on Saturday afternoon as well. And Middlesbrough drew with Sunderland as well, 3-3. A lot of goals in the Championship this weekend. I mean, I'd like to think we're not worried too much about Middlesbrough in 8th. No, it's just interesting to look at the playoffs generally. It's Fulham. Fulham are flying again, aren't they? Yeah, so Fulham beat
beat Wolves 2-0, which is a massive result for them, and obviously for Cardiff, the gap narrows to 6 points.
I've got to admit, I didn't realise Cardiff had won 4 in a row.
Yeah.
They've been hanging around second like a bad smell all season.
We're going to talk about Cardiff in a minute. Yeah, because there was
better than me. You've got the notes.
There was a question from Daniel Delaney talking about how well Cardiff are doing, and he kind of wanted. He said, "This is not Villa related, but can we just talk
Championships? Is relevant.
Talk about Neil Warnock for a second, because he thinks he's done a fantastic job on barely no budget. So I want to just kind of dig into that a little bit. Obviously, Neil Warnock as well signed a new deal this week, so that'll take him through to 2020 with Cardiff City, and he has done a phenomenal job. I don't think there's any getting away from that. He picked up the job at the same time as Steve Bruce, roughly, when Cardiff were 23rd in the Championship, got them up to 12th, I believe, in that season.
They finished ahead of us, because I remember that was one of the criticisms of Bruce, is that, well, Warnock's had no money and Cardiff were below us and they finished ahead of us. Yeah,
well, I just wanted to touch on the money thing, because obviously he spent $6 million on Gary Medine this January.
Medine got $6 million, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Christ. Just gone. Yet to score, but he's their record signing since not being in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So they are starting to spend a little bit of money. They spent $3 million on Lee Tomlin, and a little bit of money on Danny Ward as well. So
it's not much, though, is it?
It's not a huge amount, but I mean they've spent $9 million in the last year. So I just wanted to kind of point out that they are, now that they're having a little bit of a playoff push or promotion push, they are spending money. That's a little bit of a misnomer.
But if you look at that league table, if you're to pick out a team that's completely punching above their weight, it's Cardiff. It might be Millwall in 12th, but it's Cardiff.
Preston? I would say Preston.
I think Cardiff in second.
Well, second, yeah. Second.
I think you look at their team, it isn't great, but it's organised. You'd argue, you could say that when they just made the right appointment for the players that they had. Cardiff, they made the right choice. Warnock, it's his kind of team, isn't it?
Yeah.
You look at that team, and they're his kind of players. There
are two things I think it's quite important to remember about Warnock. One, the football that he plays isn't beautiful. Like, I think if we were here now and roles were reversed, I think Warnock would have got a lot of stick for the way he plays football.
Our Villa fans wouldn't have tolerated Warnock.
Right, okay, so that's important to remember, because I think sometimes we're a bit rose-tinted and we look at someone else and go, and bear in mind we're third.
I'm not sure I'd have wanted him, to be honest.
4 points behind. The second thing about Warnock, if you look at the current Cardiff team, there's only one player that's 21 or below, and that's playing regularly, and he's on loan from Liverpool. They're not promoting their youth, whether they have any or not. Warnock relies on experienced players like he brought in Sol Bamba and people like that.
He just keeps it simple.
Who can do a good job, but there's no progression with him. It feels a bit like, you remember Sam Allardyce at Bolton would always have a good team, but would keep bringing in kind of 30-plus guys.
The glory years at Bolton.
Yeah, but there was no kind of plan for the future. Whereas it feels like with Villa, we're knocking on the door, or people like Callum O'Hare are knocking on the door, desperate to play, and Villa fans want to see that. They want to see their own players come through. So I think that's quite important to remember.
He's just proven at clubs at that level, and
so's Bruce.
Yeah, but I'd say Warnock's at a lower level of club than Bruce has been at. I'd say he's not had as many Prem jobs as Bruce has had. I'd just say Warnock is a. People say Bruce is a promotion expert, and he is. But to be honest, so is Warnock.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. He's
got some teams up in his time, and he'll play ugly and not care. If ever a team mirrored their manager, it's Cardiff, isn't it? Maybe I'm not giving Cardiff enough credit. Maybe they do play some good football at times, but I can only point back to the times when I've watched us play them and they've kicked us all over the place. They've made a couple of savvy buys. I always thought Hoylett was a decent player, and he's gone there, and he's done very well. For Cardiff, he was linked with big clubs. Did he go to Blackburn
for like $8 million or something? He was very over. Or
he went to QPR from Blackburn.
Very over.
But I've always thought he's a player I've always watched and thought he was a decent player. He's someone who could do a job. It's just savvy signings like that on a free. He's just he knows the kind of market that he's working in. Warnock, he picks up the right kind of players, and that team really that was there when he took over. It was his kind of team. Already, they just weren't heading in the right direction, and he's galvanised them. And he's a madman, but he's a good manager.
Yeah,
especially at this level.
There's no doubt about that. And you're right, Cardiff are doing a fantastic job.
I feel like I don't like him, but I do like him.
Yeah.
In some ways, but still, I don't think I'd desperately want him at Villa.
No.
Yeah,
he doesn't. I think it boils down to he doesn't play particularly attractive football. And if you want to go on a Saturday afternoon or watch your team play well and win games, he's not the guy that's going to, we're going to go watch, I can't wait to watch Cardiff City play.
But their fans will probably love it, though. I don't know how their fans feel about it.
They're second.
But I've heard a lot of grumbles at Derby about Rowett, but they're on a fairly decent run. They're about where I would expect them to be, but there's no play. You'll never please everyone, will you? That's the thing. But I reckon the Cardiff fans will be just chuffed to finishing the playoffs, to be honest.
By the time you listen to this, it'll be March, and it's squeaky bum time now, isn't it? We're getting towards
the final hurdle.
We're getting towards the end of the season, and I think nobody wants to lose any game. So with Derby drawing at the weekend against Reading, that's a game that they should.
It's a bad result for them, yeah.
Exactly. So every fan of every team is going to be looking at all of those games and going, we should be winning that. We should be. So the grumbles are bound to appear, aren't they? It's a bit like the Preston game.
Yeah, I mean we're quite fortunate in the fact that we've got to play Cardiff and Derby at home. Ideally, we would have took something off Fulham when we played them, but we're in a strong position having those teams to come. Just, I imagine Cardiff will turn up and be absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
To watch when they come, and Derby probably won't be much better. Actually, they sit very deep. Derby are happy to defend, and when we played them at their ground, we were just playing into their hands. But we're a much better team than we were when we played them before Christmas, to be fair. Well,
another big game that we've still got to play is the Wolves game, March the 10th. Not this weekend, the next weekend, is that right?
Yeah, correct.
And they are opening the Upper Trinity.
Yeah, good news.
So it's if you haven't heard that, then it is good news, and it also should be worth noting that if you had a season ticket in the Upper Trinity, you can get your old seat back for the Wolves game. You'll need to ring the ticket office today, if you're listening as soon as this podcast comes out, so that's Thursday by 5 p.m. if you want to get your old seat guaranteed. So make sure you do that. Only been open 4 times since we got relegated.
So I presume, is this the 4th time?
This will be the 4th.
Yeah. So what was that? 2 Birmingham and Burton on Boxing Day.
That's exactly it.
Attendance knowledge.
Attendance knowledge. That's good. Almost as good as your shirt knowledge, which we haven't done in a while.
No, I have thought about that. I have kept thinking, was it going to be this week? And it hasn't been for about 25 weeks now.
Usually we do it for internationals, so we might have a summer special.
Maybe next time. I had something to say and I forgot what it was. Wolves have fallen a little bit, haven't they? It's 6 points now, Cardiff are off them.
6 points, yeah, absolutely.
People have been saying we can't catch Wolves. I've been one of the people who've been saying we can't catch Wolves, but suddenly, they rock up at Villa Park and we beat them. It's not impossible, is it? We're 9. We
are 10 points behind. 2 draws and a loss in their last games. One of them against Fulham, which is huge.
They were almost too far ahead, weren't they? And it's kind of like the tortoise and the hare at this point. For them, they could very well slip up or go on a bad run. People have been saying to me all season they haven't had a bad run at some point. That everyone has one in the Championship, and could end up being like last season where Brighton were top all season, and then Newcastle just came and pipped them.
Yeah.
At the end. But I'd still obviously make them favourites to go up automatically, whether it be first or second.
Yeah, I think Bristol City are an interesting as well, because it feels like they've been on a bad run for ages, and they're still hanging around. They're 7th and only a point behind Sheffield United. So, it's still very, very close. And but you're right, Wolves, if they keep slipping up, Cardiff will be hot on their heels, and it just makes next weekend's game even bigger, doesn't it?
Like I say, Cardiff have hung around that second spot, and if they could, you wouldn't put it past them getting first. In all honesty, it wouldn't put it past them.
It's worth mentioning that Wolves game is a 5:30 kickoff as well.
That kickoff, there's a few dodgy kickoffs, isn't there?
Well, they've been talking about the Norwich game. There's been a lot of talk about the Norwich game.
Definitely not good.
Which I believe has been moved twice, hasn't it? The timing
moved within twice in 2 days.
Yeah,
not ideal.
Not ideal at all. Right, should we get on to some questions? Unless you've got anything else to say? Why not, Tom?
No, I'm fine.
Oh, the snow. Do you want to talk about snow for a second?
It's annoying me, the snow. I'm worried about Saturday getting called off.
Yeah?
Yeah, it is a worry.
So Big D and Villa Mad were having a bit of a conversation on Twitter that I was privy to today. Big D was saying he can't remember a game being called off at Villa Park. Can you? It's
happened in my lifetime, but I remember it being in like Brian Little's times.
Right.
So that's the last kind of one I can recall.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think if the weather continues as is, that it won't be the only one to fall, and it won't be because, although the pitch isn't in its best condition at the moment, it won't be because of that. It'll be the surrounding areas where they're safe. Yeah. But we could do without fixture congestion and rearrange. We want to, especially when we've won the week before. Like if you haven't won for a few games, you kind of think, oh yeah, let's not play this weekend. That'll probably do us a favour. But it's probably a good time to play QPR, and we're on form. We want to play, and I want it. Det Pearce is coming over. We need to get that game on. Det Pearce doesn't make it over from Ireland very often. Yeah, we need to get that game on.
There's a few of the Irish contingent, isn't there, coming over? So hopefully magic will be worked and it'll all be okay. I think people were expecting a bit of a freeze on Thursday night, but
someone said the weather. Someone tweeted me and said the weather had changed. It's now rain is forecast.
I mean, you know everyone at Villa, don't you? You can get this sorted, the weather, can't you?
Probably. I'll probably sort it out, yeah.
Yeah?
I'd imagine so.
Good stuff. Benjamin Minot, are you nervous about not going up automatically?
Yes.
Yes.
Big time. I do not want to be in the playoffs. Obviously, I'd rather be in the playoffs than not and finish 7th, but can you imagine? Your whole season ends up resting on like one game, and you could get someone sent off after 10 minutes. Yeah. And then you're facing an uphill battle, and you've got another season in the Championship, which would be a disaster. I mean, Derby had that one, didn't they, where Zamora scored in the last minute, and it's just the players are on their knees, and they've not really recovered from it.
Can you imagine the deflation in the podcast studio after we go out in the playoffs at any stage?
Oh, mate. Also, you've got to remember, I feel like I've had a lot of bad days at Wembley. Yeah. As well, it's been 8 years since the League Cup final defeat today.
Yeah, how was it today?
The Phil Dowd decision. The video popped up earlier, and I was watching it, and I was still so angry. And I was watching it. How he didn't even get booked, Vidic. Yeah, for that is an absolute outrage.
That was a shocker.
And I don't think I'd ever seen this footage properly before, because I don't think I tuned in to watch it the highlights or anything afterwards. I was just absolutely gutted. But like almost you can see Phil Dowd speaking to Nemanja Vidic and going, "I've let you get away with that one, sir." Yeah. Not even booked him when he's through on goal.
Well, Phil Dowd, if you're watching, you're not coming to my referee's dinner.
No, Phil Dowd wouldn't be there, would he?
He certainly wouldn't.
You couldn't invite him, or you could invite him and lambast him for the whole meal.
Make him sit in the corner.
Throw food at him.
All right, Adam Barth says, has there been a standout game this season that shows that we've got it, got what it takes to go up?
Have you got what it takes to read this question?
And then a game that we might look back on and regret. So I don't know if you've seen this question already. I've got a couple of answers if you want some time to think.
No. At the time I felt the Fulham win was a big win when we beat them at home. Equally, the defeat felt quite big, just because of the run they've been on in it. We finally got to second, and the first time we found ourselves in second, we lost. So that felt quite big. It's been a few, to be honest, but we have won a lot of games this season. The way at Sheffield United was the one where you kind of thought, right, this is on, automatics is completely doable. When you see us score in the last minute, worldies in the last minute and win games, they're the ones. But they're probably the ones that stand out, and the Fulham defeat the other week felt quite big.
I've gone with, I regretted the start that we had, the whole Cardiff and Reading. You know, if we end up missing out by a few points, the sloppy start will definitely feel like a big banana skin. And I went with the Bristol City New Year's Day win.
Yeah, winning 5-0 was obviously big.
Just because it came off the terrible December as well, didn't it?
Yeah, you're probably right.
It started.
Well, we had the Middlesbrough game, maybe the Middlesbrough one when we won 1-0 away there. That was probably quite big because we talk about it a lot, but that podcast, me and you were virtually on the floor.
That's not
virtually doing the podcast on the floor that week.
That's not making the highlights, is it?
No.
Trevor Hood. If you could pick a five-a-side snowball fight scene,
I don't know where to go with this.
Right, I've got quite a lot of theory for this.
Oh God, you said you need to know the rules. So were the rules clarified?
Yes, so they were. Fight? So I wondered whether it was a dodgeball style. So if you got hit, you're out, or whether it was just.
You've had some snowball fights in your time, I reckon. Many a snowball fight.
Don't get me started on my youth. Or whether it was just a kind of battle until the end.
What is it?
It's a battle. You've got to keep going. So I've gone with Johnston and Bunn because they've both got good arm strength, I imagine.
It's just current day players, is this?
Yeah, he said.
I was going to go historical.
He said this year or last year. But I've just gone with this year, I think.
Okay, yeah, I don't. And then we finished 13th last year. I'm not going to.
Yeah. Then I've gone with Hutton and Taylor, Neil Taylor, because they both both have throw-ins, so presumably they've got strong arms.
You've really thought about this a lot, haven't
Yeah,
you?
and then I went with Snodgrass just because, he's been fighting a lot. I just don't think he'd give up. Like even if he was covered in snow and starting to contract hypothermia, he'd still be at it.
I'm going to try and pick a side and not put anyone that you just put in.
Okay.
Off the top of my head now, just from this season, I might have to call in a few ringers there.
Yeah,
are you in that team? Because I want to be in my team.
I'm like the captain.
You the overs? Are you?
Yeah. So the sixth man.
I'm not sure Snodgrass would let you be captain of this team.
Oh, he would.
No. Okay.
I'd have a lot of commanding respect.
Who do we have? I would have John Terror. For absolute certain. I bet he doesn't even want to lose a snowball fight.
That seems like an oversight on my team.
I'll go in there. Chester, because he'd probably be quite consistent.
I thought you'd say Chester.
With his snow. He's a very consistent player, so I imagine he'd be consistent with his snowball
They're all
fighting.
exactly the same size.
No, he'd be consistent. He'd know what he was doing.
Right.
Chester. I'd probably have Samba, because although he'd probably get hit quite a lot, Samba.
Exactly.
Maybe not Samba. I'd recall Galini from loan, because I need a keeper.
Need a keeper.
And I liked Galina. And then I'd just get Marlon in. Just get Marlon in for the snowball fight.
Of course.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Who's that? So Terry, Chester,
Me,
you.
Galina, Marlon. It's a bizarre mix of people, of personnel, isn't it?
Nobody on the bench.
No, we don't need a bench.
Oh, fine.
We don't need a bench against you.
Bold. Very, very bold.
Not against Julian's jokers.
A return to... so David...
Neil Swarbrick not coming on your team?
I mean, certainly not.
No.
Actually,
Who's going to ref?
we'd have the nicest snowball change.
You could have refed.
I'm not
You could
refereeing.
have refed the snowball fight.
There was one point where I was playing football at uni for a just like a Sunday intramural team.
I don't even know what that word means, Tom.
It means like inter-university
Right,
team.
okay.
So for like your society or your house or whatever.
You can tell I stayed at home and went to Birmingham.
Did you go to at home?
I stayed at home, stayed in Birmingham, yeah.
And the referee didn't turn up, and one of the guys knew that I was referee, and he was like, "Oh, would you do it?" And I was like, "No chance."
No, you said no.
I was ready to play. It's a very different mindset.
I bet you had that referee's kit with you though, just in
I
case.
did not,
Just
no,
in case.
absolutely
You still got your ref's kit.
Yeah.
We have to wear it one way to the podcast.
No.
Why?
Well,
I feel like there should be some kind of forfeit. Like next time you do something wrong, you have to wear the referee's kit.
I feel like it's going to come up in the next
You'd
question.
be wearing it every week, wouldn't you?
David Hunt, is there a return likely to Villa Park for the Villa View? So he's referencing the Villa View had a fan game at Villa Park a couple of years ago. Was it a couple of years ago or was it last year?
It was a year of October, so it would be 2 years this October, 2018.
That's right. Yeah. Is it possible to play again? Obviously, with the pitch as it is at the moment, I don't think it's going to be this season.
I don't think I wouldn't get your hopes up that it'll ever happen again. I think
Yeah.
it was a one-off that we were very fortunate to be asked to be involved in. To be honest, the things like the Bodymore game, like that's organised by the club. It wasn't just for us. We were just lucky enough to be invited. There was lots of fans and lots of other fan sites there, so there's a chance something like that might happen again. I know the Lions Club, I don't know whether they still do, but they used to have a game at Villa Park at the end of every season, all the heads of the Lion clubs. So maybe that will happen. Needless to say, I'd love to do it again.
Yeah.
Absolutely needless to say.
It was brilliant.
It's not up to us, unfortunately. If it's up to us, we'd be doing it every week.
Yeah.
Even if it was affecting the pitch, we'd still be doing it. I still don't think I've been forgiven for my knee slide by the groundsman. He always gives me a knowing look whenever I see him. Yeah, he remembers, I think.
He'll never forget. Let's finish on this one then. Jack Hurley, what is your best sporting experience outside of Villa?
No, I don't know.
Have you got any?
I used to play rugby at school, and we went on rugby tour to Cardiff, and I scored probably the best try of my fleeting rugby career that probably lasted 5-6 years when I was at school. I wasn't the best, but that was a worldie try.
Right.
That was probably my only sporting highlight, in fairness.
Fair.
What about you?
I
You refereed that game?
I didn't pick I was once on the line in the FA Cup.
Really?
In like a preliminary round.
No, it doesn't.
I picked one which I was working at. I went to the Super Bowl last season, and that was unbelievable. 28-3 comeback by the Patriots.
That's your sporting. I thought it was something we played in. I thought that was going to be our sporting.
I didn't go with that.
Because I'm only pure, really. I like a bit of NBA, but I'm purely a football man, really.
Yeah.
So I've not really got any moments from watching anything else that I can think of.
Trying to think, I love playing, but none of them was like spectacular. I've never done anything particularly noteworthy.
No, I liked Euro '96. I know that's still football. When I was a kid and I was watching Euro '96, I remember that I was at the top of my love for football at that point. Probably like I was really starting to understand it.
Yeah.
At that point, Euro '96 was a great time, and international football has never been the same since.
Agreed. That was my first tournament. I remember.
I remember USA '94, but England weren't in it.
Oh yeah.
So I didn't. I think I supported Republic of Ireland at that point because they had 4 Villa players.
Oh yeah.
And that was my understanding of football was brief.
There you go.
At that point, yeah, that was a good time. Euro '96, loved that.
There you go.
We haven't talked about the
times.
The wedding.
Oh,
the wedding. You were the one that was determined to get this back in again.
That's very true. Last week we
wedding conundrum, as it was labelled.
Yeah, we read out the question from Adam, who was debating whether to go to a stag do. Basically, the wedding that he's invited to, just for the evening, is on the same day as the playoff final, and his missus basically said, if you want to go to the stag do, then you have to go to the wedding. That was the choice.
She's a hard taskmaster.
We talked about
it for about an hour, I think, in the podcast last week.
It was very long. So Rob Henry has been voted the best response on the YouTube comments. So I'm going to read it out.
His response got 6 likes, and Moto Mafu said it was the best response.
Absolutely. So that's all I'm going from. That's pretty.
That was the remit.
That's pretty certain for me. So Rob Henry says, my advice: RSVP, yes. If Villa in playoff final, send your best looking mate with your wife to the wedding. The groom will not want to enter into too much debate over why your wife has come with someone else, and your wife will probably have a better time than being with you moaning about missing the match. If she has a really good time, just hope Villa win to console yourself with your over. Oh my goodness! Just hope Villa win to console yourself over the long, lonely summer.
He'd take that now if he was offered it. I'm sure.
I mean,
let us know, Adam, if you would take that.
I would love to know if you've relayed that conversation to your missus, Adam, just to see if that's happened.
You have to be careful with what you say though on social media in the podcast, because I've come across with a few times I've spoken about my wife.
Yeah,
where she surprised me
and my mum
and listened to it. No news from your mum still.
No
news at all.
Mike Wyant actually offers his services for the wedding. Obviously, that would be me in Rob's example. However, I'll be at Wembley with you, so I'm not available. Oh, so he doesn't.
No. You not fancy the wedding gig?
No, I'll be with you.
I feel like an all-day wedding's more your scene than the playoff final.
Oh, I love a wedding.
Yeah,
I really do.
To be fair, who doesn't?
I absolutely love it. I'm going to one on Saturday.
But you don't even have in the evening. That's not for me. I like an all-day invite. I'm an all-day man.
I like to get into the whole thing and
make a day of it. Yeah, why not? Who did you go to wedding Saturday? Did you say?
Yes.
Yeah, not best man this time, or
no, nothing this time.
No, nothing.
But
an all-day guest.
Big Norwich fan.
All-day guest though.
All-day guest.
Success. Yeah. Success.
Absolutely.
We'll end on that success. There, I think I'll do the outro because, quite frankly, yours last week was all over the place. Although I am setting myself up for a fall.
Please.
Now, thanks very much for listening or watching this podcast. We appreciate all the support the channel gets. There will be a match preview coming up in the coming days, so look out for that, where I imagine it'll be Rollo and myself talking about the QPR game. Fingers crossed that it is on, and our friend Det Pearce makes it over. If you have enjoyed this podcast, then give it a like on YouTube or leave us a review on iTunes, and that would be absolutely fantastic.
I've got to interrupt you. John Inslee.
Oh yeah, well done. We'd have been in serious trouble, wouldn't we? John Inslee, I don't know his Twitter handle off the top of my head. No, normally he's on private though.
John Inslee. He's running a marathon, isn't he?
Is it for kids with cancer he's running it for?
I think so. I wish I knew
We've really
more.
done our research here.
Yeah.
We'll make sure the description to John's sponsorship page is in the description. He's looking for some support from the Villa View public, and to be fair, he's been a very, very good support to the Villa View. He's done a lot of good stuff for us, which we really appreciate. So it would be nice to help him out, and if other Villa fans could help him out as well. Tom's completely cut me up in my outro, and I can't remember where I was. So leave us your comments on to whether you've enjoyed this podcast or not, and your thoughts ahead of Saturday, and your thoughts on Villa in general, or anything you'd like to see incorporated into the podcast. Maybe some games that we could play, maybe liven things up a little bit. We appreciate all your suggestions. So yeah, give us some suggestions of anything you'd like to see in the podcast. If you think there's something desperately missing. If you're not subscribed to the Villa View with your post notifications on, then if you could do that, that helps the channel grow. And we appreciate all the support we get. Thanks for listening to this ramble. Again, at the end, I blame Tom Julian for interrupting me, and thanks for all your support of the Villa.
Bang average outro.
It's still better than yours last week. If you enjoyed that video, why not watch another? Click the video choices on screen now to go and watch them in full. Be sure to subscribe to the channel by clicking our logo there on the left. Easy peasy.